Hey guys, so if you noticed after Lee Sun-kyun's untimely departure from this world, the day after or the day after, there was one of the suspects who had been called into the police station for questioning, and she was carrying like a sack that looked like her baby. Yes, so it turns out that she is one of the blackmailers. She knew the madame, who was also a blackmailer. Were they working together or were they working separately? What's the drama? Because yes, y'all, this girl is the most. Apparently, she is a sort of actress. And she even went on TV, y'all, as a witness. A witness when she was the criminal. So this is the case of the madam and her upstairs neighbor. Now we know from the voice recordings that were released between the madam and Lee Sun-kyun and Lee Sun-kyun's sort of legal representative that she knew very well the girl upstairs. She even said, oh, the girl upstairs is being hounded because she works in the same hostess bar. They worked together. Not only that though, they knew each other from prison. They were friends in jail. And so when they both left jail, and I think it was on also substance charges, they decided to live in the same building. So that's why they were, neighbors. Now, the police right now are saying that the two did not collude, that they are separate blackmail cases, but from what we see from the text messages, it looks like they at least definitely colluded in the planning, so the law is very specific and it depends on what country you're in. It depends on basically what people are defining as collusion. And in this case, it looks like in Korea, it's like where the money is transferred. The money was transferred separately with separate requests. Now, they could have had the same idea, but it came separately. So that's why it sounds like, oh, it's separate. They didn't collude. Does that mean they didn't know each other? No, they knew each other. They were planning it together. And when you see the logs from the messages, they had a falling out. They had a falling out because if y'all gonna collude as thick as thieves, after you get the money, you have to stay thick. But no, one of them thinned out and took the money without giving the cut to the upstairs neighbor. And so that's how this whole conflict came about. Okay, so yes, we know the madam is Nam-hee. And she's 28 years old or 29 years old. Don't know if it's Korean age or international age, but 29 apparently. And then her neighbor, 28. So they're essentially the same age, which makes it more likely that they are, going to be friends. And they kind of expect a little bit of equal standing, not somebody punking out on them, taking most of the money, or offering peanuts. So she is a single mother, the upstairs neighbor. Her name is Park So-jung, and she made 2 film appearances. One was called The Beginning of Misfortune. Geez, that was 2012. And then 2015, The Bluebird. The first movie was about domestic violence. The second movie was about school violence. And maybe she found herself in some straits where then she went to, in real life, some prison violence. So she had some sort of, a start in the entertainment world. She met Nam-hee in jail. They lived in the same building after they got out. Then they worked at the same hostess bar and ended up at The Good Place. The Good Place is the 1% hostess bar that is embroiled in this whole scandal. So people are trying to figure out, whether they were together, planning this, or whether they were separate. And like I said, they were definitely together in the planning stage, we're going to go over some of the timeline. But just so you guys know, yes, I hope everyone had a good new year for, coming into 2024, especially on the sad news of Lee Sun-kyun. He is, if you're wondering in terms of where does he stand legally, in Korean law, if you pass away, then if you are a suspect in an ongoing investigation, that case closes, because essentially they're saying like you can't punish. I mean, there's no use in throwing down a punishment, I guess, towards somebody who has passed away. But if you are a victim, you were a victim and you passed away, the investigation continues because the perpetrator is still alive, and so there is value in spending time and resources and putting on a punishment towards the perpetrator. So sometimes in Korean, the words are very similar. Suspect and the victim. So it's 피의자 if you're the suspect, and if you are the victim, it's 피해자. But a lot of times people say the suspect word 피의자 really fast, so it's 피해자, and then people also say victim 피해자, and they drop the h sound, and it's like 피해자, so it almost sounds the same. This is something that we also saw in the case of the Han River mystery, where the suspect, when they were talking about him, it sounds like they were, deliberately kind of making it sound like he was the victim. Okay, so if you were wondering, right, about the madam, she is 29, unless she found a way to assume somebody else's identity, because I know everybody's saying that she looks so old. And she does, and it's her style that also looks really old. Like, her style is more like, some of the snatched women who are like in their 50s or 60s. But regardless, that she is apparently 29, and then even people among her, they're saying that she's not the prettiest. And so a lot of times, when wives suddenly turn their attention onto these room salon girls, they're like, she's not even that pretty. And it's not necessarily always about the pretty. She had the charm and manipulation, apparently. So if you're wondering, that's kind of the situation. Now, if we go back into the timeline, we're going back towards, remember the tip-off was like August, and then on September 12th, on a Tuesday, Kim Nam-hee somehow finds out about the police investigation. She claims when she was talking to Lee Sun-kyun that she has like some friends who are, she said she had friends who are hackers who kind of downloaded the information from the police, and then she saw her name on the list, but she hadn't gone in for questioning yet or something like that. And then she says she gets like attacked by a hacker. Okay, so then anyhow, she is probably in a desperate situation September 12th, because she knows like, oh no, like she's already been to jail, so the punishment's going to get higher. She is also looking at, her job money is going to dry up because they're going to shut down, or they've already shut down that good place. And so now she's going around trying to gather as much money as she can, probably also to, get her legal fund going. And so she fails at extorting a rich artist, apparently. Then we see her, at least in the evidence, she probably could have called a ton of other people, but from what we have seen that has come out, is that on September 17th, the Sunday, she calls Lee Sun-kyun and says like, oh, there's a hacker. Oh my God. Like, they're asking for 300 million won. We'll just say it's $300,000, but strong as if the dollar is strong, then it's less than that. So there was, before that Sunday call, we saw on Thursday, September 14th, that there was some sort of collaboration between the madam and her upstairs neighbor on messaging. And the upstairs girl was saying like, you know what? I don't think there's really any kind of use in bringing up the injectable situation, because that's not going to stick. So apparently, so then that means essentially that probably he didn't do anything like that. But the way that other stories have come out that she claimed to the police that he was there in the room and he also partook in it at the club at the Hostess bar in June. But the upstairs neighbor was saying like, that's probably not going to bite on that one. Don't get him riled up. So again, when people are saying like, Lee Sun-kyun was unfairly maligned and that he was accused, this is evidence showing that, yeah, he was accused, at least in that June situation, of doing something that he didn't do. And then the madam, mind you, this is the madam like calling Lee Sun-kyun, like, oh, oppa. So she said, okay, then maybe I should just say I got hacked and I already paid the hackers 50 million won, and so then that would kind of induce Lee Sun-kyun to be like, oh my God, you paid 50 million won because of my situation with you? Okay, I'll pay you back. I think that's what she was hoping. But the upstairs girl was like, no, please do not do that. We don't really know what transpired between then, but after the phone call and then in a long ass message to Lee Sun-kyun, the madam said, essentially, you know what, if you give us 300 million won, if you give me 300 million won, I will take care of this. I will take care of the hacker situation. I'll clean it up and they won't threaten us again. And then if this goes out to mass media, it's going to destroy us. It's going to destroy you. So just trust me, I'll take care of it cleanly. Now, people in the, Korean forensics world, they're looking at this message and they're just saying like, that wording is a little bit off. Just trust me. And it does seem very, it seems so sus. Like, just trust me. I'll take, But in any event, so right, that phone call was on the 17th. So 5 days later, on September 22nd, Lee Sun-kyun did give Kim Nam-hee 300 million won so that she could give it to the hackers. Did she? She never did. She was planning on holding on to it. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, but we do see a bit of an argument between the madam and her upstairs neighbor over the money. And at this point, the upstairs neighbor is talking as if there is another hacker and it's not her. So right now what's come out, the conclusion here in January 2024 is that the upstairs neighbor is the hacker or is the person. And then it's a question of how long was she tricking the madam that it was actually somebody else, or did they know from the beginning that the upstairs neighbor is just gonna pretend to be the hacker? Like, pretend to be the hacker, I'm gonna be pretending to be like, oh, the madam that's getting threatened. But the way that they were talking in this message, it sounded like Park was the upstairs neighbor was still being like, you're not gonna give money to the hacker, as if it's a third person, not just herself. And then they're trying to negotiate because, and this is where it seems as if the madam actually didn't know that her friend was the hacker, because she's like, oh, I'm not going to give it to him. And then the upstairs neighbor was like, well, what's going to happen to Lee Sun-kyun if you don't give them the money? And then she's like, oh, well, he's just going to be toast. And so the hacker, though, asked for like 100 million won first, or then 50 million won. And so the madam just went for the goal and said like, okay, fine, I'm going to ask for 300 and then just pocket the difference. But then instead of pocketing the difference, she pocketed the whole thing. Now, between September 22nd and October 13, apparently then, yes, the fight got a little bit more heated, where the upstairs neighbor contacted Lee Sun-kyun as well and said like, look, yo, Miss Madam thing, oh, she did not give the money to the hackers. If you get the money back from your madam, and then you just give me 100 million won, and then I guess maybe it got negotiated down to 50 million won, I'll take care of it. So on October 13th, Lee Sun-kyun did send 50 million won to that neighbor girl. So that's why we had that total lump sum figure of 350 million won. 300 million won that went to the madam, and then 50 million won that went to the upstairs neighbor who said that she could take care of the hacker situation because it looks like your girl ran off with your 300. I'm going to find a way to fix all your problems for 50 or 100, even though she is actually the hacker. October 18th. This is when the Incheon police, now let's talk about a little bit how the police, there's been a lot of criticism about the police, the Incheon police. They made a progress report. The progress report listed the people that they were investigating, but not all of them had been investigated. Not all of them had been called in. But on that day, they did call in Kim Nam-hee, the madam, and she was just starting to spill the beans because apparently there is a system in the, if you're like a criminal, you can gather participation points and gather awards. That's kind of the slang that the police give for saying like, hey, participate or spill the beans on something else, and then maybe we'll look at you in a better way, or not throw the book as hard at you. No guarantees, but I guess that's how they induce more and more information. So that's where the madam accused Lee Sun-kyun of MJ, smoking at her house that year, and then also that injectable session at the hostess bar in June with like 7 other people. This is where she also spilled the GD allegations as well. Now, that was problematic in the sense that the report shouldn't have been constructed in that manner, a lot of people are saying. But what's even worse is that report itself, it was premature. And it's just all, at that point, just hearsay and rumors about one girl. That the next day, it was leaked. Or actually, it was probably leaked that night because next day it was published in a newspaper. And that was leaked. And then so everybody was speculating on who this actor was. And that's why, because they kind of, like in a Korean name, there's usually 3 characters, and then they like X out the last 2 characters of their actual name, or maybe just even the middle, and then it's much easier to guess who this might be. So then that's when all the news reports came out about Lee Sun-kyun saying like, oh, actor L is embroiled in this scandal. And so that's where people are saying like that was extremely unfair and may have contributed to Lee Sun-kyun's death. Now, if you really look at, like the way people have been responding to it, yes, there is this double standard in Korean society. Yes, there is this uptightness. Yes, there is the strict laws. But then when you really look at some of what could have happened, I still think that when he left the police questioning that last time, I still think that he was willing to fight. But I believe that he was probably in 19 hours also trying to get some participation points, and that probably leaked out to people who, have vested interests against him. And I think they upped the ante. They released those phone recordings that basically then put public opinion away from his side. And then all of the sponsors were starting to say, like, you have to recompensate us for damages. And that would have had a horrible financial effect on his family. So you have to take those things into account as well as like why he may have made that final choice. Also, there is the absolute possibility that he didn't make the final choice himself and it was just set up to look that way. This point, you guys, in Korea, all options are on the table unless it's been totally investigated. But you guys, the reason why I say that everything is on the table because there is no shame in this game, apparently. No shame. No, the audacity and the balls on this girl. So the upstairs neighbor, she went on a TV program that investigates like true crimes and stuff as an informant. as like a witness when she's the main criminal, at least in this picture. There might be some people behind her, there might be some other people on the side, or there might be some more powerful people above, but at least in this case, in this situation, she went on NBC. It's M like mom, like MBC, but it is sort of like the NBC of America. It's one of the 3 major terrestrial broadcast networks in Korea. She went on the show under a false name. She brought her phone. She said that somehow I got these telegram messages between my downstairs neighbor, the madam, and the blackmailer. I want to show you. I want to report on this. I got this information, and I'm an informant. Now, instead, and on this show, instead of her saying like, oh gosh, you got to find out who this hacker is, this is crazy, she's like, it looks like the hacker is sort of friends with Kim Nam-hee. Or Kim Nam-hee is, essentially the madam. It looks like the madam is on friendly terms with the hacker. I think you need to investigate the madam. You need to investigate Kim Nam-hee. She looks suspicious. So totally, this shows that, yes, they were friendly, because she even said so, because she was the hacker making those messages. Somehow it ended up on her phone. And it looks like they turned on each other. And so now they are fighting each other to the death. And also, there's probably a lot of jealousy going on as well, because, she probably thinks like, oh, she ain't even that pretty. And then how does she get Lee Sun-kyun? And how come she gets all the money? And like, yeah, totally see that. And so this looks like a situation where they're going to claw at each other, which is why we have to be a little bit careful with the information, because it's going, obviously, look, she tried to do her own misdirect campaign. And it reminds me of the Psycho River killer who killed her husband for the insurance money. And then the insurance company was being very slow on responding to her claim because it looked so suspicious. And that psycho girl, who also kind of worked in that room salon industry, went to the TV station, or wrote to the TV station and said like, look, this is so unfair. This is a case of like insurance companies not being honest. And she had the audacity, when she's the one who was, did all those things, attempted multiple times to offer husband for insurance money before the insurance policy ran out. So when people are really kind of shocked by these kind of cases, when you look at the details, it shows behavior that people can't believe people would do. And just because you can't believe somebody would do something like this doesn't mean that there aren't people doing it and ruining people's lives because of it. So more than focusing on whether this is just like a vice situation and debating, whether people are so uptight about vices, this is about, yes, utilizing the vice or being discovered of partaking in the vice, but really it's about blackmail, lying, manipulation, threats, and then making people do all these other things because there's this whole blackmail situation going on. So hopefully these girls get justice, but then also at the same time, we don't want to take our eye off the ball of the other people behind. Yeah, Dairy Queen. Yeah, we're still waiting for your soft serve. We are waiting, but going one by one. And so I just wanted to give you the update about these 2 blackmailing girls. And maybe there will be more about the other people coming out. Or maybe this is exactly the bait that they're throwing out and then we just get satisfied with. And then we forget about all the other people in this situation. All right, guys, what do you think? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.